morning, everybody, and welcome back into another episode of the LEGO Legend of Zelda Custom Set Showcase Wave 3, where today we're into another very exciting number, Z0045. You guessed it, you told me. This is CMF2, a really anticipated custom set for the channel, using our purple box art from this way around. This time, as I mentioned, Series 2, we're down to only 12 figures in a series because that was the change that the LEGO minifigures line underwent since we did our CMF number 1 late last year, and I highly recommend checking that one out first, as a lot more of the iconic characters will be spread across that set and that wave. But without further ado, I will hold us back no longer. We have 12 amazing figures to take a look at today, as well as all the normal stuff. So this is Z0045 for ages 6 and plus, for retailing for £3.50 each, containing 12 minifigures in total. The Zelda CMF Series 2. Let's get into it. Here is our series of minifigures all lined up, and you can see that on the top of the box we're in the new smaller size with 36 bags per box instead of the 60. You've got your Nintendo logo, your LEGO minifigures logo, your 12 to collect, your Series 2, your group shots, your shots around the bottom, and 36 bags, yes you can count them, lined up inside the box ready to go. And if we take a closer look at those characters, obviously we'll be going at them individually. From left to right, we have the Twilight Princess Darknut, Ilia, the Fairy Queen from Wind Waker, Ravio, Skirvo, Vati, Medley and Makar, Cafe, Anju, Linebeck, Saria, and Ruto. Why did I struggle so much with that? And here we have them on a backdrop as if they were in a landscape image, and this is something I did with my Wave 1 series, and I love the way they look on a more colourful and Zelda background, this one being the moon from Majora's Mask 3D. And if we take a closer look at our bag, we can see all the authentic details. We've got the purple colour, a couple of our characters on the front, our LEGO Legend of Zelda logo, one LEGO minifigure, figurine, minifigura, Nintendo logo, and the set number down the bottom. And if we take a look at how many we get in our box, once again, as I mentioned, we have 36 numbered bags instead of the previous 60. And if we look at our box distribution before we get started, we can see that there are 3 of everything in this box. I'm not going to say all their names again, but you get 3 of everything, even distribution, as the 36 is in most cases nowadays. First up, getting straight into the minifigures, we are going to start with Linebeck from Phantom Hourglass, and this is a great figure that I think translated really well. We chose a medium flesh tone, and we are using one of the Lloyd hair pieces here, recolored in reddish brown. He's got some simple face printing, including a bit of a eyebrow up sort of a expression. He's got his little mustache, a frowning face, and a goatee, and obviously he'd have a reverse expression as well. Some very simplistic arm printing, just some banding down by the cuffs. He's got his jacket open, and then some simple leg printing, not jewel molded. His belt buckle is showing as well, and once again trying to capture that cartoonic aesthetic of those 3 games, the Wind Waker trilogy. So there's slightly less detail in favor of more blocky cel shaded shapes. As for his accessory is a rolled up map, just like his character is seen in most of the artwork. It's just a bar through 2 1x1 round cylinders with 2 tiles on the end, so it sort of looks a bit like a weight or a stick as well, but it's a map, trust me. Next up, we have the Fairy Queen from Wind Waker, the simplest figure in the series, and as I mentioned, she is based off the Fairy Queen, so of course she is holding a micro figure in lavender as her accessory. Her hairpiece is brand new for this figure, as it is a CMF, and CMFs usually get 1 mold, and apart from that, her printing is very simple indeed. 2 big round eyes, a smiling expression on a medium azure head. The hair and the dress are all in the light aqua color with some very printed simple neck and like crinkle line printing, which continues onto the 1x2 brick which makes up her dress, which is what figures that would have mid-leg use instead of dresses. Think back to Hermione from the Yule Ball. There's also a plate on the end to get the height right, and then her medium azure arms are unprinted. So a very simple figure, but an important character from Wind Waker all the same. Next up, we have Ravio, and while you might be shocked to see a render on the screen, I assure you there is a reason. Ravio, our traveling merchant, has a recolor of the scarf in blue or purple, one of the 2, and he has a brand new molded headpiece, which is obviously his famous hat. It is a nice simple mold with 2 ears. It would be in the more rubbery plastic to stop them from snapping off. There'd be a simple hair face print underneath, as well as an alternative hairpiece included for the alternate version of Link. He is using the new modern dress piece in purple, and he has some printing across the front of that. Apart from that, his torso is actually completely plain, bar a couple of stretch lines, and he is containing a print on the sack piece which has a rupee on it, following in the same vein as Cheetah from the DC minifigure series, which had like a money symbol on it. This one has a rupee because, of course, he is a merchant. Also included is the rupee bag accessory. This rupee bag is something that's appeared across a lot of our Wave 3 sets, and just like the Marvel accessories Power Blast, they come in a little tiny bag, and you get 3 green rupees, 3 blue rupees, and 2 red rupees for our merchant Ravio to use, which I think is a really nice inclusion for this figure, and it's been appearing a lot across our Wave 3 sets, which I highly recommend you go check out. Next up, though, we are moving on to Vati from, in this case, the Minish Cap. And one thing we have included for his accessory is Eslo's hat, so the original magic hat that he steals, which then turns him evil. He has, again, some more cartoonish face prints because he is obviously in the more cartoony style of game. He has a cape which has a bit of a swerve to it to give it that little sort of like cloak might feel, although it doesn't actually come around his front. That is, of course, made up with his torso printing, which stretches across his torso. His arms are in the paler lavender color with his white hands, or like creamy hands. Maybe, in fact, this figure may be glow in the dark. His mid legs have been extremely printed, showing off the bottom of his dress as well as his shoes. He's got his belt which teases his eye form on it as well, and he has some face printing with some defined cheekbones, and of course a new and exclusive molded hat hair combo with the hat in hard plastic but the hair and ears in soft plastic to stop them from snapping off, just like with a lot of the other figures, as these hair strands are pretty narrow indeed. Moving on, once again, we come to the Dark Nut from Twilight Princess, who is, of course, from Twilight Princess. He is carrying the Uruk-hai sword in favor of a new sword mold as his weapon, and he has a shield print that has been like reprinted over the normal round shield with the handle underneath. His arms are in fact dual molded with grey on the bottom and black on the top, but we have also included some dark grey printing to represent the shoulder pads on it. His hat hairpiece is one piece that slides over the top of a normal black minifigure head in this case, which would of course have the normal printing for the second phase of the Dark Nut. This headpiece sort of contains the shoulder straps, but it just sits over the top and is of course exclusively molded for him. His torso is rather plain as most of the detail is on that head mold, but still includes the rivets for his armor as well as the negative space between his shoulder pads. Moving on to his legs, they are of course more detailed, once again being dual molded with black at the top and dark bluish grey on the bottom, or even gunmetal grey maybe. I think that might suit it better. The dark red straps that come underneath his armor are visible to give him a bit of color contrast, and again the black negative space for the chainmail is present. Overall, a really good figure that would be really easy to army build in this minifigure series. Next up in this series, we have Clea, who until today I didn't realize I was actually spelling wrong, and of course she is again from Twilight Princess. Now, I struggled for a while of whether to include long legs or mid legs for this character, but in the end I settled on long legs so she looked better next to Link from the same game. She has some normal flesh-toned arms to represent her shorter top, and her tan torso has the correct printing on it, as well as the like swirls, which are subtly in a light yellowish green in print. She also has the negative space on her hips, as well as like the gaps around the top of her top. She's got some simplistic face printing that's in line with normal Lego minifigures, and she's using the zombie businessman hair recolored into medium nougat, which I think is really fitting for her. Sorry, dark tan, which is really fitting for her. Her brown shorts are showing through the bottom of her dress, and she's also got her traditional bare feet from this image on the right. Moving on once again to LD002G Skirvo, the full name of Skirvo, which I actually really struggled to remember. Now, this figure here is from Skyward Sword, and he's really detailed, and he's possibly my favourite from the series, although we'll have to wait to the end before I tell you that verdict. Once again, he is using a lot of existing pieces, such as the epaulette in pearl gold from the Pirates line, the Pirates hat from the Series 14 Pirate, as well as a load of others, which then has the quill piece in the top, which I associate with like Angelica and the Pirates of the Caribbean line. He has the hook hand from Pirates and the Zombie Pirate from Series 14 as well on his left hand, according to him, and he has a build for his sword using the extended lightsaber hilt that was introduced with Monkey Kid, and then one of these castle crenellation toppers, which works absolutely perfectly for his electric sword. As for his printing, his hairpiece is attached to the hat mold, so the hat mold is actually a modified version. And then underneath, he obviously has his face printing with his square eye, his diamond eye, no nose because minifigures don't have nose. There's his mustache and his devious smile, and that is all on a light bluish grey head with a red diamond printed in the middle. His torso printing is fairly simplistic, showing his rib cage underneath using dark grey to represent his negative space. On his belt, he's got his very shiny bejeweled belt, and then his stripy shorts are broken up all across the legs, and solid gold replaces the joint underneath. He is also wearing his brown boots, suggesting that these legs would be dual molded with pearl gold at the top and brown at the bottom, and those are in dark brown. And his arms are not dual molded, but his other hand is in gold, representing whatever he holds his sword with. Overall, a really standout figure and definitely one of the better ones I've drawn in this wave. Next up, we have Medley and Makar, which also came out particularly well. I chose to put these two together because of their scale, and I don't think I could put Makar at a bigger scale, although he definitely had to be included as the most famous Korok of all time. Medley uses the normal hairpiece, which is really simplistic, in a orangey color, dark orange to be precise, and she has her very large minifigure eyes, a little tiny smile, and her nose because it is so iconic to her character. So although noses don't usually appear on minifigures, I think this was a worthy exception. Her arms are dual molded using the flesh tone at the bottom for her hands and her bottom of her arms, and then sand blue at the top. Her torso is also sand blue with some dark red printing showing off the Rito, or should I say Zora logo in pearl gold, and she also has her scarf wrapped around the top using her little pin, and then her mid legs are once again printed in sand blue and flesh tones with some yellow feet printing for her bird feet. Makar, on the other hand, is a accessory that sits on top of a stud, so I think back to the nano figure that the Queen Fairy was holding. His base is exactly like that, but he is specially molded to look like Makar. He is in a hard plastic, and he would be very strong, and possibly his legs wouldn't exist, but it is the perfect representation of Makar, and I really love how he turned out, and I can't wait to put him in a car. Badum. Moving on once again, we move into the Ocarina of Time figures for this series. First up, we have Ruto from the adult portion of the game, and I actually chose to go more with a Hyrule Warriors appearance and go for a darker blue for this figure, which really makes her stand out instead of using the light pale aqua just like the Queen Fairy. She's using a new custom molded headpiece, which I hope I get to reuse for other Zora figures later down the line. She's a very simplistic face print on that medium blue head, and then she's got some simple torso printing with the negative space hips once again, and her muscle definition, which is really strange for Hyrule Warriors, but you know, we're going to go with it. Some plain blue for, legs, plain blue arms, and of course the water medallion, keeping in line with our series 1 where we had Naboru and Daruk with their respective medallions. So between Ruto and now Saria, we now have 4 of the 7 stages, just missing Impa and Zelda, and then of course Raru. But here we have Saria using mid legs with a combination between flesh tones and green, with some boot printing at the bottom in darker green. She is holding her forest medallion as to be expected, and she's actually reusing the Korra slash Molly Weasley hairpiece from Star Wars Solo and Harry Potter 6 in green, which is an interesting combination. She's got her simplistic face expression, simplistic torso because graphics, and her belt buckle, as well as some simplistic arm printing in a darker green to represent the turtleneck that she wears. So anyway, moving on from her now, nice and simplistic, we move into the last two figures of our wave. And I have been teasing this cuckoo for so long. But before we get to him, let's start with Andrew or the Cuckoo Lady, depending on which game you want to call it. Technically, this figure should be the Cuckoo Lady because she comes with a cuckoo, but because we included Cafe, I wanted to include these two Majora's Mask characters here, because Z0050, the Clock Town set, is coming as a big D2C Master Builder series set with lots and lots of figures, and these two didn't have the space for them, and I thought they were perfect CMF inclusions, considering they are fan favourite characters with an amazing side quest. So, Anju is using the Molly Weasley / Cora / Saria hairpiece recolored in red again. She has another very simplistic face expression that looks slightly smiley, and on the other side it would be a depressed expression. Her torso has some simplistic printing to represent her little like waistcoat thing, and she's using the dress piece in a sand blue color with some printing along the bottom that you can't quite see in this image. Her arms are dual molded with her sleeves up in white and her flesh color down below, and she has a little bit of blue printing on them too. Moving on to our cuckoo mold, you can see that this is a big upgrade on the chickens we used in the Wave 1 polybag cuckoo's nest, which is actually technically Anju's enclosure, so I guess that scene's complete now. Either way, this cuckoo mold is especially designed for Wave 3 and is Anju's exclusive mold as a CMF. He has a stud connection at the bottom and has a lot of frilly details to represent all the fluff on the Ocarina of Time cuckoo. He has his little red beak, which I chose to do in dark red instead of red because I think it looks better. He has his nice beady eye and his beak as well as his tail feathers, and I really love how he turned out. So that now completes the Ocarina of Time animal menagerie between the cuckoo, Ocarina of Time cow, Epona, and the Skulltula. I think we pretty much have them all now. Moving on though to our last figure of the series of 12, we have Cafe from Majora's Mask, and of course he is holding his iconic accessory, the Keaton's mask, which has a bracket attachment so you can put it in front of his face without interfering with his hairpiece, which is also exclusively molded just like the Keaton's mask. In purple, it features some strong angles just like the character from in-game. His facial expression I struggled with for a while whether to give him coloured pupils, but I've taken the coloured pupils away from every other character, so I did so here too. His purple eyebrows really stand out along with his big eyeliner and his unhappy expression because his sun mask was stolen. On his torso we have some very simple printing once again, missing the pendant of memory in favour of the Keaton's mask. He could not wear both, and this printing continues across his hip and onto his mid-legs to represent his childlike stature. His legs are printed in purple with some white detailing around the bottom, and then he has his yellow boots on as well. On his arms there is a simple blue printing, but they are not dual molded as far as I can tell. And again, the hair color proved challenging, but in the end I think it is just the lighting and it being shiny, so I went with purple. That is our last figure, and that completes our lineup of 12. And wow, what a lineup this is. I was initially skeptical of this lineup because I had to cut it down from 16 because figure numbers changed from 16 to 12 in 2021, and that meant I had to get rid of a couple of fan favorite ones which I'd actually already drawn, but they have been moved to other custom sets and have better prospects, and I'm much happier with this lineup of 12 than I was with the lineup of 16 in the end. And just seeing them come together, I really am happy with the outcome, as well as just looking back at my drawing ability in comparison to the first CMF, and it's just impressive to me, and I'm really pleased with it. And besides that, we got to talk about next week, and we've only got 3 custom sets left in this wave. However, I'm pulling a dupe. We're not doing any of them. Z0051, a set that has previously been considered non-existent and not on the board, is entering the arena. And unfortunately, I do say that this will last for the whole of December, which probably gives away what it is. Every Friday, we will be doing a segment of it. And I hope you don't get fed up of it. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's exciting. I had to do the CMF before it though for reasons, so I'll see you next week. Leave your guesses down below if it hasn't become obvious already. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this CMF, or if you like the LEGO Custom Zelda stuff that we do here on the channel. If this one didn't catch your fancy, I'm sure another style of video here will, so please take the time to look and let me know your feedback on my selection, who I missed, which one looks best, which one should army build, all the stuffs down in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.